Good afternoon. This is Elaine Grohman on Earth Wisdom Circles on Empower Radio. I am very honored to have Dr. Karambu Ringera on the show with us today. She's joining us from Kenya. And I've had the privilege of listening to her speak on podcasts, and I knew that I really wanted to have her on the show because of her heart, most of all, the work that she's doing for women and children in the globe, and our deep connection that we need to rebuild to our earth. So welcome to the show, Dr. Ringera.
Thank you very much, Elaine. It's a pleasure to be here.
Let me give a little bit of information about you. You are very accomplished. You travel all over the world. You have traveled all over the world. And you have your PhD in intercultural communications, which I think is so essential for women to be able to understand the culture that they're coming from so that you can really touch their heart. Certainly just your presence alone touches their heart. But women come with so many fears because of the cultural beliefs that they live in. And then second to that, your concentration on peace building. So I want to thank you. Please tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Dr. Karambu Ringera. I am love and light. I understand that I am not the things that I do. I am not the accomplishments that I have attained, which, like you correctly said, are many, and I'm grateful and proud. I'm grateful for that and proud of that. However, I have come to understand that the work that I do, the life that I live, is not like there's a life that Karambu lives, is that there's a life calling to be lived through me.
Yes.
And I've responded to that life. And in responding to that life, therefore, I have understood that everything that I do is love and light, because I want to hold a space for everyone that I meet to also see their love and light.
Yes.
I work with women and children who have been made vulnerable by HIV and AIDS, poverty, or violence in their lives. And in my work, I don't name them or mark them from their circumstances, because that is what most interventions do. We call people victims of their circumstances, and that marking is actually what shows up in their lives. I see the women and children as whole, complete, pure, and enough. And my work is just to hold a space for them to find who they are. Because I say the tragedy of a people, of a person, is when they don't know their power, is when they don't know who they are. Because we are powerful, we are amazing, we are beautifully made. And when we remember that, then the naming and marking of socialization, culture, traditions, religion, systems, they don't touch us because we know who we are. So my work is about awakening, regeneration in our lives.
I love that. That is so important. And for you to speak to it in that way is so powerful, because in our world, we have marginalized people by incorrect beliefs. And thank you for what you do. I'm honored to sit in this space with you. And I agree, because we are light. We are beings of light.
Yeah.
Privileged to live a life. Called to live a life. And the life is the greatest gift we'll have. So we don't want anyone's light or life to be diminished because of incorrect belief systems that others hold. So thank you for that. Can you tell us, please, about the International Peace Initiative that you are the founder of, and when that began and how that began?
Yeah, International Peace Initiatives is an international non-governmental organization that works to mitigate the impact of HIV and AIDS, violence and poverty as they affect women and children in their daily lives. And I started the organization when I was a student at the University of Denver. I came home one summer and I met a group of women meeting in my mother's compound, and they shared, they would come and fellowship, raise some money, share it around, and then keep some. And they also used to buy each other cutlery for their kitchen. And I said, "Is that all that you do?" And they said, "You have no idea. 7 of us lost their husbands this year, and 7 children are not going to school." And that was in June, half a year, and 7 women in a group of 25 had lost their husbands. And I said, that's not normal. Do you know what they died from? None of them said they knew what had killed their husbands, even though HIV and AIDS was so prevalent then in my country. And so I said, you have to go and find out what they've died from so that you know how to take care of yourselves so that you also don't die and leave your children orphaned. And so they went, and eventually they found that their husbands had died of HIV and AIDS, all 7 of them. All 7 women were HIV positive.
Oh, my.
So that started the journey of, oh my gosh, they thought they were going to die like any minute. And so we started working with organizing a group, a psychosocial support group, where they would meet and share ideas. And it was tough for them to really, find who they were now without a husband. And for most of them, the husband was the income earner. Many of them were evicted from their matrimonial homes because the family said that they're the ones who bewitched their husbands.
Oh.
It was a tough ride. I mean, it was hard. And it would take like a whole day to share some of the stories of these women, but we fought for their land. We fought for their homes. We fought for their health and their kids to stay in school. And I'll tell you that over the next several years, we were working with a group of 95 women. And remember, I am still in school doing my doctorate. And so I say International Peace Initiatives is my second PhD because it was quite the journey. So that's how we started IPI, because in November of 2002, I did my first event in Denver, which was actually making Kenyan food, inviting people to come and taste our food. I had brought back spices from Kenya, so I made food that tasted like home. And then I shared what HIV and AIDS was doing in my community. I talked about the women, the children, and I charged a fee at the door. And that is how I raised the first $400 to take the 7 kids to school in 2003, January. And since that January, we have supported over 3,000 kids to stay in school. And then soon after, when the women said, "Thank you for taking our kids to school, how can you help us?" I said, "I don't know how to help people. Tell me how you want to help yourself." And so the women started the group that enabled them to do skills training. We talked about life skills. We talked about self-esteem. And I'm telling you today, those 95 women, none of them comes to ask me for help anymore. In fact, they're the ones who bring me things now. They settled. Some of them have bought land and built their own homes. Some of them started their own businesses, and now they have been able to put their kids through university. And remember, they couldn't even buy uniform for them in primary school. And so that's how IPI started. And now we are at a point where this year we will have graduated 30 young men and women with bachelor's degrees, 5 with master's degrees, and one of them will complete his PhD this year. But beyond the academia, it is what they have chosen to do with their lives. Because, you know, we are told that empowerment, we need to empower people. No, empowerment is what people do for someone else. Like I can say, I empowered the women in the mainstream way of speaking. But really, empowerment is what someone does for someone. Empoweredness is what they choose to do with that gift. So these people are living, the students, the kids, and the women are living their empoweredness. What they choose to do with the gift of me holding a space for them to see they can do anything they wish to accomplish for their lives. And that is what they've done today. I have kids who have graduated from university and they're doing amazing things. One of them has decided to come and work with us because he says that that's the best way he can give back after being taken care of at the Kiloka Amani Children's Home, which is a program of international peace initiatives. And he's the kid who said to me, I may be an orphan, but I'm not the one who is dead. You know, when a kid recognizes that they are alive, they have a life, and they can do something with that life. I mean, I was like, hallelujah.
That is such a powerful statement for a child to make. And you can let a tragedy like that. I know I lost my mother when I was young, and you can either let it destroy you or let it be the light, as you said, that, you know, she's the one who passed, not me.
Yeah.
And so I can go on and live because of that example, because of that love and light, and because she brought me here to this planet.
Exactly.
So that's just so wonderful. And I want to thank you because this is such an important, you're an important example. Your light, your life is an important example of what we all need to do for one another. To see you can do anything that you set your mind to. But wouldn't it be beautiful to do something that is inclusive and collaborative and life affirming and life bringing, rather than something that is just about wanting and giving and or getting more and more and more. That will always be insatiable because it doesn't fill you. It's an emptiness when people just want something just to want it. And that includes humans, especially women and children.
Yeah.
So Karambu, can you tell me about this beautiful, the school or the Amani home that you spoke of? Can you tell a little bit more about that and how you started it? And I know you said you have these children that are now going to school. Do they live in a residence? Tell us about that, please.
Yeah. You remember I said that the women came and said, please, can you help us now that you've supported our kids to go to school? And I said, I don't know how to help people. Tell me how you want to help yourself. And so once we started, it took them like 6 months, half a year to discover what they can do. So they started making jewelry. And then a year later, they said, we want you to know when we die, our children are yours. Now, these are 95 women, and each of them doesn't have one kid. Maybe some have 3, and they're telling me, a student, that to know if they die, the kids will be mine. So I took a breath in and I said, okay, I will take your kids, but please don't die quickly. Yes. So they laughed because I said, you can't die quickly. But the idea was, for them to take care of themselves and to hang in there, and together we'll be able to take care of the children. And I also wanted them to know that I will always be there as long as I have life, to stand with them, because I knew all the time that they had what was needed to stay alive and also to take care of the children. So that's where the idea of the children's home came from, because I wanted the women to stay confident that if something happened to them, their kids would not go to the streets, because as a mother, the streets in my town is not where you want your kids to go when you die. So I said, we can build a children's home, but I want you to promise me. Now I'm saying to the women, I want them to promise me that they will help me build the house. I had no dime, I had no land. So I said to them, first of all, you have to go and look for free community land. See whether we can get free land so that we can build the home there. Number two, you come and help me build. So some of them were telling me, when they were talking like this to people, they would be like, have you ever seen a house built by women or by a woman? And I said to the women, if they haven't seen, I hope you'll be the first ones to show that women can build a house.
That's right.
So I started looking for money. During my Kenyan event, the event that I started in 2002 in November, I did it every year. And every year it became bigger and bigger. It became my main fundraising point or event while I was a student. And I would have students, professors, and my lecturers help in putting together the event. And so when I would do that event now, there were three things I would ask money for: the children's school fees, the women's, I would sell the women's jewelry there, and then now the children's home. So I got a friend of mine who got 10 of her friends to raise $1,000 each. So I had $10,000, and that is what I went to begin the children's home with. That money finished at the foundation. I hadn't even started building the walls and things. So I met another girl. She was from Austria, born in Kenya, going for summer in Australia to do a bike ride with her boyfriend. And I said, you're going to do a 6,000-kilometer bike ride for what? In Australia, a desert. And she laughed. She said, Australia is not a desert. We will make it. I said to her, then give it a course. So they said, like what? So I told her about the children's home and what we wanted to do. And she agreed to make it a course for their bike ride. They called it Bike for AIDS, and they raised $6,000. That also went to the building of the home. And when I finished the first floor, I finished the money that I had. And for a year, in 2008, I didn't build. And one day, I sat in that empty lot with plants starting to grow inside the building. And I said, please, God, this is not about me. Give me someone to help me complete this house, because this is about the kids. At that point, I had 7 kids living with my mom, and I was a student, so I couldn't send her money to buy food for them. And she was telling me to take the kids. And when I said that prayer, 3 days later, I got an email from someone I had never met. And he was looking for a program for HIV and AIDS orphans in Africa. You can imagine, I responded to that email very, very fast.
Oh my gosh.
And I didn't even know who it was. But when he responded, it turned out that he was this guy from the UK. We were writing like in September. In November, he came to Meru, Kenya with his wife for a day. They flew on a Friday night. They came into Meru. Saturday morning, I met with them. Saturday afternoon, they were out of Kenya.
Oh my goodness.
They said they were going to make my program their corporate social responsibility program for the next 5 years.
Wow.
That's how I completed the children's home. And the women came to help. They would come and haul rocks and carry rocks and things like that. And then I would bring my friends from the States and we would work together and build the children's home. It became a place of meeting, of building relationships, of so much love and support from both Kenyans and people from outside. And in August 2009, we opened the children's home. And this August, we're going to be 12 years since the home was opened. We started with 10 kids. Some of them have just completed university, some of that 10. And I think the youngest one is the youngest one is now in high school Form 3.
Wow.
And now we have 73 kids in the home. I think we are almost 80 now because we got like 3 more kids who have come from, COVID-19 year has been very, very difficult. So we got some babies. So now we have like 3 babies who have not even gone to school yet. Anyway, so that's how the children's home started, and it's become a home. We don't call it an orphanage. We call it Kithoka Amani. Amani means peace. Children's home, it's a home. It's not an institution. It's a home, and we live as a family. And it's just been a beautiful journey and experience raising these children. And I don't know who's been raising the other, but we have had an amazing time together. So,
well, what's so beautiful, and my guest is Karambu Ringera, Dr. Karambu Ringera. And you're setting an example that when you show somebody that they can do something, it literally lights a fire in them of oh gosh, I can do this too. And they might actually have fun doing it as they're learning, that humanity has needed to have shelters for as long as humanity has been on this planet. And whether it's a cave or it's a home, it can be done. And you need fire and you need sustenance. So that I want to talk to you also about the beautiful permaculture program that you have. And I want to make sure I'm not mispronouncing it, but is it Tirigi?
Tirigi, yeah, Tirigi.
The place of abundance. Is that in that? And the permaculture. So that's near and dear to my heart because I'm getting ready to prepare a big garden for a community place where we have a food pantry, a free food pantry for about 600 families we feed every month. But tell us about that. I remember watching, I believe it was a TED Talk that you did that had a video about creating this beautiful, lush landscape from what had been a pile of rubble, essentially. Can you tell us about that, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Elaine. I love to talk about permaculture. It comes from permanent agriculture, which is said to have been permaculture as a movement was started by someone from Australia called Morrison. But they never say that Morrison lived in Tanzania. And when he went back home, that is when he started this thing that he called permaculture. So permaculture is exactly how my grandmother used to work at Tirigi. Tirigi is actually a place where my grandmother had land, and we used to go and farm there. My mom tells me that when I was 3 or 4 years old, they wouldn't go to Tirigi without me because I would make such a ruckus. They would just have to with them.
Good, you were demanding to be a gardener even then.
Yeah, but in my mind today, I still see Tirigi. It was lush. It was a food forest. It had everything that you could think of: yams, bananas, coffee, sweet potato, cassava, everything. And so when I started the children's home, I said, oh my gosh, I've never raised more than one child. How am I going to feed these children? And I knew I didn't want to feed them chemicals. Right. So Tirigi is, and I called it Tirigi, a place of abundance, because it was a monocropped piece of wasteland. Like when we moved there, we couldn't even grow kale, which is the cheapest and easiest growing vegetable that we have around here. We couldn't until we really worked the soil and brought back fertility. And now it's a food forest. Like during COVID-19, I hardly ever bought bananas, cassava, sweet potato, vegetables. It all came from Tiriji. So Tiriji is a space where I am developing this thing that I'm calling regen culture, regenerative culture. Because for me, regeneration, like you said correctly, is a process of igniting a fire in someone. Yes. And when that fire is ignited, and it's like you remember your power, you remember there's nothing you can't do. So you learn something, and once you learn it, you use that learning to respond, not to react, to respond to any other challenge that comes your life. Because there's a learning that takes place there that regenerates within you this spirit of everything is possible when I believe. That's me now speaking about how I think about doing things, especially when I come across a situation that everybody says you can't do, you can't make it. I'm like, who says I can't make it? Exactly. Just watch this space, and I've found there's nothing I haven't put my mind on and heart on that I haven't done. And it's not because I am special. Whatever I have within me, everybody has it within themselves.
That's right.
And everybody can access that and do amazing things. Because I say life is not a chore. Life is not like a punishment. Life is a gift. And I don't believe whoever brought us here to punish us or to have us have, tough times. When everybody remembers who they are, when anybody remembers who they are, they have access to an amazing power that enables us to actually overcome so-called insurmountable situations. So permaculture then is this place, Tiriji then is this place where we've created a food forest that now has become a learning space for people to come and see what's possible. We have herbs, we have medicinal plants, we have superfoods, we have amazing things that enhance people's health. Because I keep telling people, regeneration is about recognizing or remembering that plants were given us for food and medicine. That's right. When we eat well, we don't get sick. When we don't eat well, that is when we need to see a doctor.
That's right.
But this medical thing now has become like a big business. And so my uncle, a couple of years back, went through a treatment for 2 years of diabetes when he didn't have the disease because someone wanted to make money off him.
Yes.
I'm not saying all doctors are like that, but medicine now is something else. So I encourage people to eat well, to grow their own food. And today, Meru has one of the highest incidence of cancer in the whole of Kenya, and I bet that could be the whole of Africa also. And that's because we are agriculturalists, but we are using a lot of chemicals on our land. We no longer till our land, we spray chemicals to kill the weeds. And then we put chemicals to prevent bugs and things on our plants, on our crops. And then when we harvest corn and beans, we preserve it with chemicals again. And when we start cooking the food, for example, taking the corn for flour making, we don't wash it. So all these chemicals are getting into our food, and so many people are dying of cancer. And so I talk about the importance of food. I talk about not food sovereignty, but not about food security, but food sovereignty. Mm-hmm. We need to own our seed. We need to own our food and produce it the way we know is best for us, and especially our indigenous seeds. Exactly. Because modern seeds, you plant them, And when you harvest, you can't replant them again because someone is making money out of us buying seeds every season. When you buy a certain seed, it goes with a certain fertilizer, a certain spray, and we become slaves of these seed companies. And we don't think about, because even our government is telling people, giving people free seeds and fertilizer, they don't recognize that we are becoming slaves of these companies. And I say that the next terrain of slavery will be in the domain of food.
Absolutely.
Because when people control your food,
they control
you're done.
you.
They control you.
That's right.
So anyway, regeneration is about igniting that fire within us. And that's how we are working with Tiriji as this place of abundance. And it's both abundance in our food, but also it's in abundance in taking care of our ecology, of nature, of each other, and of, everything that we've been given to enhance our life on this earth.
That's right. And thank you for that beautiful conversation, because, permaculture is watching what Mother Life has already been doing forever. Exactly. That there is the time to be dormant. So that seed can grow to its maturity before it can, with the heat of the sun and the water, then move through the earth. And we forget that we're a part of all of that. We're not just observers of it. We're certainly not owners of it.
No.
And I appreciate so much what you're speaking about, because I talk to people all the time as an energy healer. That's what I do. Is people's belief systems create their disease. And because in fact, it was interesting. I was having a long conversation yesterday with a physician about, our very chemicals in our body are initiated by thought.
Yeah.
You have a fear, your body will throw adrenaline into your system. If you're comfortable, your body will have the appropriate hormones so that you can think and you're not just reactionary. You can respond appropriately. And I want to thank you for what you're doing, because it's so, when you ignite the flame of life within somebody, they see it in themselves. And then they recognize this is something that has been extinguished in so many people, intentionally so, to our demise.
Yeah.
And it is, we're in a very important time. We're in this time of change. And where women, the understanding, the collaboration, the maternal instinct, whether you've had a child or not, you understand comfort, you understand care, you understand collaboration, you understand if you hold a weapon, someone has to lose. If you do battle with your own body, you call it the battle to kill cancer. Well, the person that has the cancer is going to die.
Yeah.
You cannot, we even use language that is so violent.
Yeah.
And we don't realize how much it has been incorporated into our everyday thinking. And when you give people that chance to see, they're here to learn. Every human is here to learn.
Mm.
Every human is here to contribute.
Yeah.
And we have no idea what we're capable of.
I know.
Because we have been so governed by false beliefs. And as soon as you espouse a belief, you don't have to think.
Yeah.
No, I believe that, so that's where it is. Well, how do you know if you don't think about it?
That's
is it
what
workable?
I've been told.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us what I know that you do talk to people around the world, in particular women, and you're an inspiration, and I thank you for that. What are you finding is the change that you're seeing in women, in individuals? How do you see? I'm sure you see just the light go on in somebody's eyes.
Yeah.
Their energy being ignited in such a way that they're no longer lethargic. They have something to live for.
Exactly. It's beautiful to watch. It's like a veil is lifted from someone's, it looks like it's like a veil is lifted from someone's eyes, but I think it begins from the soul, right within one, and it brings this light in someone's eye. In fact, just yesterday, one of the ladies that we've worked with over the years came to me, and she was so bright, and she was so like, she told me something. She told me that her grandmother used to tell her, if you find someone who knows, who is, she used the word, who is more enlightened than you, never leave their side. Because there are things that you're going to learn from them that are totally going to change your life. And that is what she was talking about, referring to our relationship. Because when we met, she was not in a good place. And today she's thriving. Like, she's amazing. She's so happy. Her 2 kids are finishing college, and she's built a house for herself because her husband died a long time ago. And she's the living example for me of that regenerative spirit and that like awakening. It's a total change of energy, because when we met, she was so lethargic. She was so always sick. And now she's someone totally different. I mean, even she herself is surprised at who she has become. And she walks around singing. That is what she was telling me. She has so much joy within herself. She walks around singing, and you can see it.
And I think that, Karambu, we forget that relationships that are meaningful are human permaculture. It's that we have an aura that is dynamic. It is a part of this electromagnetic system that is interacting with the earth. And when we have a higher vibration, by the laws of resonance, which is an immutable law, we don't have to agree with it, we don't have to know it, it will affect the people around you. So I always refer to, when I teach about energy medicine, I always say to people, I am personally responsible for my sphere of influence, meaning the energy that I hold, I am responsible for that.
Yeah.
If I don't have a high enough energy, I should not be around people that I could adversely affect them. I should go and rest and regenerate and eat well and sleep well and have happy thoughts.
Yeah.
Creative thoughts.
Exactly.
And because we all have the same 24 hours in a day.
Exactly.
And you can stretch a minute if you know what you're doing.
That's true. Yeah.
So how have you been, as you've been working with people, how have you recognized that perhaps violence has been mitigated, or how are men responding to the women changing, growing, being more self-involved? Have your lights gone out, my dear? Because it's very dark.
No.
I know that
No.
you're at nighttime in Kenya right now.
No, let me put the lights on. I hadn't
Okay.
put the lights on.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we can see her because in Kenya it's 8 hours difference from where I am here in Michigan. So
Sorry.
No, please don't worry. I was just saying to the listeners, we have an 8-hour difference from where I am to where you are. So
Yeah,
yes.
but I told you the lights vanished at around 3.
Yes.
So we don't have power right now. So
It's okay. We can hear you. That's the most important part. Okay. So my question again was, how have you noticed that men have changed as they have witnessed women around them change? Have they been welcoming it? Have they been fearful of it? How have they changed?
So I will say that, excuse me, some men have responded positively to it, and they're actually supporting the women in this endeavor to change. And a lot of men are still struggling with it. Mm-hmm. However, we recognize that, at least I know I do recognize that things have shifted. And even here in Kenya, women are just coming to light in terms of the amazing things that they're doing. Right now, women are leading the movement towards governance, good governance, because we don't have good governance anywhere, not in churches, not in parliament, not in our local government. It's just not good. And women are leading these discussions. Even today, in one of the groups that I'm in, a lady was asking us to hold a space for challenging the governance that we have now, because it's not enhancing people's lives, and asking what are things that we can do. So there's some resistance, but the thing is that women are not being cowed anymore. They've recognized that when women have taken positions of leadership, things have gone very well. They have. In my area, in the area where I live, there's another lady who is leading an organization, and these two organizations have done things that people can see are working, have worked, and totally changed the lives of the people that we work with. And they are led by women. And so the question of women are not able to do these things, women are this and the other, no one is buying it anymore. Right. Remember, systems have programmed us. They have conditioned us to a certain mindset. Even we women believe certain limiting thoughts about ourselves from our culturalized, socialization. Right. And now we are stepping back and saying, wait a minute, who has done this? Even in their homes, I ask women, you tell me who is running the show at home. And some of them laugh and they tell me, well, when I suggest something, it is, like someone will say, how do you think that is workable? But when the husband goes out and shares the same idea with men, then it becomes his idea, which is okay as long as it is implemented in the home, I say. But women, then I say, there are certain things that we've taken for granted. There are certain ways of naming and marking ourselves that we have we have taken in, and we need to start rethinking those things. Yes. For example, when you tell me that I can't build a house because I'm a woman, I mean, what builds a house? It's not my being woman, it's my brains or whatever. That's right. That's right. So I encourage us to start thinking about changing the way we have been, the things that have been told about us that we have internalized, and we criticize each other and we criticize ourselves as women, and saying women can't be a parliamentarian. I'm like, according to who? If you lead your home, you can lead parliament, because leadership is about authentically showing up as who you are. A woman in her home holds a space where she is not the one who is looked at as the best person or something like that. She wants she wants her children, her husband, the people in her family to recognize their power. So a good leader does not try to show people how great they are. They show people how great the people are. And that is what every mother does at home.
That's right. And I think that when we should always be very leery of anyone that tells exclusively about their own accomplishments. And I think that when we have women really being in positions of power, as you had mentioned, Karambu, that is, we have to remember, we as women are nurturing and guiding and helping our boys, our little boys, learn how to be men. And we want them to be men with open hearts, inclusive, willing to listen to their mothers or their sisters or their aunties or their grandmothers. And what came to mind as you were speaking about building something, I love to be creative and make something. And the term that necessity is the mother of invention. So what does that mean? It's that, you know, you don't have to be the strongest, but you could be clever and wise and figure out, well, how do you create a tool that makes this possible? You know, it doesn't mean that I have to pick up a 2-ton brick, but I can figure out how to move a 2-ton brick if I look at what is available. So there's many different ways that we can become intelligent. And I think that one of the things that many people erroneously believe is if they have knowledge, that they're somehow better. Well, knowledge does not mean workable.
No.
Knowledge needs to be filtered down into intelligence. Knowledge needs to be filtered down into wisdom. And then wisdom needs to be filtered down into clarity. And what is workable is the only thing that should matter. What is workable? And creative and innovative. And it doesn't mean that that's the one and only way to do something.
No, absolutely.
So I just am so grateful to know you. I feel like I have a sister in Kenya now. So
you do.
I do. And I keep telling our dear friend who lives in Nakuru that I someday want to get there. And you mentioned compound, that your mother lived in a compound. And our friend also lives in a compound. So do you have to, you may, and please excuse my ignorance, do you have to protect yourself from the wildlife that may see a human as lunch? You know? So
you remind me of my students at Denver. I used to ask them, do you wonder how I navigated the African jungle, jumped into a plane, and evaded all those lions that must have been coming after me and got here, you know, alive? And the kids would be like nodding their heads and I would be laughing. So anyway, I don't know how to answer that question, but we live in a compound. Even me, I live in a compound. But
so does that mean you've created a community? Just so that people understand what you mean by a compound, is it like you've created a small village? Is that what it means to have a compound, or is it just everything that your home? Okay.
Your home. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The space that you've created in your home. But then we have neighbors, and like my mother's house, I'm trying to work with this, like my mother's house.
Oh, it's good.
They don't have she's never put a fence around her house, and she's never put a gate. And so we have neighbors, so anybody can come in anytime. But that is changing now. People have put gates and things like that. But when I was growing up, we lived in this village and everybody could walk into anybody's house at any time.
Right. I remember that as a kid. Nobody locked their doors when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But I do know the reason I thought about the compound is because our friend who lives in Nakuru, Kenya, he literally lives near an animal preserve. So they have to protect themselves from those big 4-legged creatures that want to have them for lunch.
Well, we also live near a forest, and lately elephants have been breaking the electric fence and coming to where people live. So in the last 2 months, people have killed like 3 elephants, which is not good in my view, but also the animals need to be protected from us, and we need people protected from the animals. So we have that challenge around here.
Mm-hmm. So how, as you said, you've seen some of the men have some resistance and others be very collaborative and helpful. How are the boys growing? How are the boys, are they seeing, I always think it must be very hard to be a man.
It is.
Because you have so many cultural beliefs, hereditary beliefs, religious beliefs, that you have to be the one in charge. That's got to be an enormous, really enormous burden.
It is, actually. In fact, the same lady that I was talking with yesterday, who was telling me how she feels empoweredness, was telling me about her friends, and she was telling me her married friends, and she was telling me when she goes to their homes, she sees how disempowered they are because they've relegated everything to the men. Everything that is needed to be bought in that house is the man who take care of. And that's a big burden on the men. And there is therefore an inculturation that they've grown under that now forces them to wake up and wear a mask every day. Like it's like waking up every morning and taking like a sack of rocks and putting it on your shoulders because you have to be a certain way for your family. And not only your family, for the people outside your gate. So men are always wearing a mask that they have to wear, that everything is okay even when they want to kill themselves. In Meru, in Kenya today, we have so many boys who are committing suicide because there's a certain expectation that is laid on them, and the society hasn't created the space for them to be heard or to share exactly what they say about what society has said about them. And so how I have brought up my kids is, and for a lot of boys, when they get circumcised, when they become 13, 14, they go through the rite of passage. And in those spaces, they are taught how to be a man. And how to be a man is to be all those negative, toxic masculinity aspects, that you have to be dominating, you have to win always, you can't speak like a woman, you can't be a woman, you can't be all these things that they are taught. That actually when they talk in men's circles, because we have a men's circles event here where some of my kids lead, they talk about the burden of being a man and having to deal with all, wearing this mask every day and carrying this burden every day. And so we have created the boys' circles so that they can speak these things and they can share ways of supporting each other.
That's wonderful.
Today in Kenya, we are talking about the girl child not being endangered anymore, but the boy child is. But I say that the boy child's challenge is the privilege that patriarchy has given them as men. Patriarchy has told them this world is fundamentally for them, by them. And that's not the case now, because women have started challenging those spaces. And when women challenge those spaces, some men can't stand it. So they start being violent, they start being abusive and all these things. So there is a move now of including boys in the empoweredness process, because the men have not been good role models for the boys.
Right.
And so now we have a crisis here of men who are just in drugs, drunk, and dropping out of school and all these things.
Yes.
So for me, where I am, I have raised my kids a certain way. And I have raised them not so much by criticizing the other side, but showing them the power of having a voice, agency, and thinking for yourself, not allowing a system or a group of, or a clique of whatever to tell you how you should be thinking. I tell them they have a brain and not water between their 2 ears, and they need to make use of it. They need to be critical receptors of whatever society tells them, and to question, but not to question in a violent way, to question in a way of raising awareness so that other people, other men, can see that the system has actually harmed them more than helped them.
Yes.
And we also have a program called the Gender Equity and Reconciliation program that brings men and women together to talk about how patriarchy has harmed both men and women. Patriarchy has privileged men, but it has also harmed them. And in these workshops, we talk about how that has happened, and it totally shakes the world of men and women who attend these workshops, because we used to think that patriarchy just benefits men. and stuff like that. But when men really go to their heart space and they get out of their head, they start realizing who they have become is not
Yes.
really who they want to be or who they are meant to be.
That's
And
right.
so they are now taking back their lives and removing the masks so that they can really be authentically here with women and other men
Right.
in ways that enhance everybody's life.
And when we collaborate, there's so much more ease, there's so much more joy, there's so much more potential. We have no idea as a human species what it is like to actually be free and be peaceful, free of burdensome belief systems, free to be collaborative. We don't, some people don't even know what to do when they don't have something to be upset about.
That's true.
So we have a lot to learn. So please, if you would give us the best way for people to reach out to you. We only have about a minute left, so I just want to make sure, Dr. Karumba, that anyone that needs to reach out to you, wants to learn about you, can do so. What's the best way?
They can reach me on my phone here in Kenya, which is 254-795-444-556, or through email, ringerambu@gmail.com. Ringerambu is RINGERAMBU@gmail.com.
Thank you so much.
They can also go to our website,
Yes, please.
ipsci.org, and they will find us there. On Facebook, just search my name. You'll find me on Facebook too.
Thank you. So we have it on the bottom of the screen so people will be able to see that. It's been absolutely a pleasure. Thank you so much. I hope to have you back on the show again. I hope to have the pleasure someday of meeting you in person. And I want to thank you for all that you do.
I look forward to welcoming you, Elaine, to Kenya. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. This is Elaine Grohman on Earth Wisdom Circles on Empower Radio. Please know, as Dr. Ringera just said, every human is here to shine their light. Let your light be seen. And what a bright world we will have. We can't even begin to imagine, but it's beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.